Good morning. My name is Tom Leveen. I'm an award-winning novelist and Bram Stoker Award finalist. I've also written for the comic book Spawn, which is amazing. I have 22 years of background in theater as an actor and director, and I've been teaching writing for about 10 years now. One of my favorite things to teach is dialogue. I'm also a big fan of talking about description, and then I teach a lot of classes that are just about publishing in general. How do you write a book? How do you find an agent? Should I self-publish? What's a good plot? Anything you can think of. Those are things that I teach about all the time. This particular video series is called Watch Me Write, and what I'm doing is literally starting from ground zero with no preconceived ideas or notions, and I'm going to write a book for you. I do have a couple of ground rules, and here's what they were. Number one, again, was not allowed to take a previously existing idea, and I've got several. I keep an Excel document of the various ideas that I've got for novels. Couldn't pick from one of those. Had to start from absolute zero. No preconceived notions of what the story was going to be going into it. Number two, preferably, though not a rule, preferably the genre was going to fall somewhere into either fantasy, science fiction, or mystery/thriller. The reason for that is, as I understand it, those three genres in particular are what we call evergreen, meaning that there is always going to be a market for them in one way, shape, or form. Now, I'll probably end up veering fantasy. I'm a little bit more comfortable in that than I am in science fiction or thriller, but we'll see. I don't know what the story is going to be yet, so I have no idea. It could be a subgenre of those, like urban fantasy or even magical realism, anything like that, but we'll have to get in there and see what happens. I have no idea. Rule number three was that I had to document absolutely everything. Now, I'm not going to sit here for, an hour and make you watch me type on a screen. That would be kind of silly. Maybe there's someone on Twitch who wants to see that. I don't know. And I may end up, at some point, I'll do some special event live streaming on Twitch or something like that where you can actually see me do that. Instead, what I will be doing is I will capture the entire process and then I'll edit it down just to capture the important parts, the stuff that I think is going to be helpful. One of the other things I wanted to talk about before we even get started here today is the fact that, yes, it's 5:30 in the morning, which really sucks because normally I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. Why am I up at 4:30 in the morning? Well, in my particular circumstances right now, I have a wife and 2 kids. She works full-time, I work part-time, and on top of my writing stuff that I do. And so 4:30 in the morning is about the only time I'm going to have any time to myself. And that's sometimes what it takes. I'm not going to tell you that you have to get up at 4:30 if you're serious. What I am going to tell you is that if you are serious, frequently, you will have to make other sacrifices. That's the first thing I want you to know right out of the gate before we even start this journey together. Sometimes, depending on you and your life circumstances, there are sacrifices you have to make in order to make this particular dream come true. Most dreams, frankly, whether you're starting a business or you want to be an artist, singer, whatever, author, the ones who get up early are the ones who tend to succeed at their goals, whatever they may be. I'm going to be writing a full-length novel. For our purposes, we're going to call that minimum 50,000 words, but closer to 65, 70, 75, that would be better. 80 was good. Those are safe word counts for most genres. There are exceptions. I've published exceptions. Not all of my novels have been 50,000 or more words, I don't think. I'm pretty sure Party was 45, 48, something like that. But it really depends largely on the genre. Having said that, anything between 60 to 80, you're in relatively good shape for just about any genre novel. Originally, I was going to post the entire, the day's writing. I try to do 1,000 words a day. If possible, 2,000 is better, but 1,000 words, because I know for sure that I can write 1,000 words in an hour. Figured 1,000 words would be great. And I was going to post them in their raw form just so that so you could follow along. The problem with doing that is if they are published somewhere, even if it's just on a blog or a website, Facebook, wherever, then it becomes harder to pitch it to literary agents and actually try to sell it. So, since writing and publishing a book is part of the process, or part of the goal of what we're doing here, part of what I want to show you, I'm a little apprehensive about doing that because if I publish it, the writing in any format, then the only option left to us is to do some kind of self-publishing or independent publishing. That's not bad or wrong. I just don't know if that's what I want to show you. So I haven't decided about that. That's something we'll have to talk about and think about, and hopefully you will join me on that. Lastly, before we get going today, I just wanted to encourage, number one, I'd like to encourage you to invite people, invite your friends to watch the videos or listen to the podcast. I would absolutely adore your feedback. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of, so that I can give you what you need to make your journey work. Always, always, always feel free to ask questions in the comments. I will get to them. One of the questions writers and other creators get a lot is, where do you get your ideas? Well, that's a question fraught with peril. Everybody gets ideas from different places. The most important thing that I want you to take away from today's broadcast is, if you get an idea, and for me, usually that idea is not a plot, it's usually a setting, but whatever your ideas are, write them down. Put them on your phone, put them on, like I like to use Trello.com, for example. If you're not familiar with Trello, take a look at that. It's an organization website that I love and adore. But do whatever works for you. Write those ideas down. Now, Stephen King has said previously, and this is many years ago, so maybe he's changed his mind, but Stephen King has said, when you get an idea, don't write it down. Just let the idea come, chew on it, think about it, whatever, and then let it go. If it comes back and it keeps bothering you, it's probably a good idea, then you should pursue it. Just because it's your first idea doesn't mean it's your best. Maybe it's not something you need to write about. I understand his logic there, and to a degree, I would also be on board with that. I fundamentally, though, as a writing instructor, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with the master of storytelling and say, when you get an idea, write it down, because you do not know when it's going to come back. My first published novel, Party, came about as a collection, like an amalgamation of multiple different stories and scraps of stories that I had just lying around on my hard drive. If I hadn't had that stuff, I couldn't have written the book that I did. And as it turns out, the entire conceit of Party is 11 chapters, and every chapter is told by a different character. So there's 11 different points of view. That's a whole other topic we'll talk about some other time. But the point is, if I hadn't written down these notes, I would not have that novel. So I encourage you to write down your ideas, no matter how far-fetched, no matter how silly, no matter how stupid you may feel they are. Just write them down, because maybe you aren't going to write a book about that idea today or tomorrow or next year. It might be 10 years, it might be 20 years, but it might be 20 years, you know what I mean? So do write that stuff down. Now, I have not written anything down for our time here together on Watch Me Write. Instead, what I've elected to do is I'm going to go to a photo website like Unsplash or Pexels, and I'm going to start scrolling around. I'm going to enter a couple of search terms and see what comes up, and I'm going to look for a photo or photos that speak to me, that grab me, that give me some kind of inspiration. I will tell you, despite having no preconceived ideas of what the novel is going to be, what the story is going to be, I can tell you that I veer toward younger people. That's been my niche, whatever, for for many years, has been the young adult category. I don't know if I'm writing a young adult novel yet or not, but I will probably have main characters that are younger, generally in high school or just out of high school. So those are the kinds of images I'll be looking for. Again, I'm hoping to veer fantasy, science fiction, thriller, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. Other than that, I don't know what we're going to find here today. I will also tell you that probably I will end up writing in first person, but I haven't even opened a document yet, so who knows, okay? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up a brand new, fresh, shiny Word document and get that cursor going, and then we're going to head over to a photo site and see what we can see, all right? Where are you? There you are. Unsplash.com and Pexels.com are two popular royalty-free photo sites. It's a great place if you've got a blog or a website or something like that, or just for social media purposes, and you need some stock imagery that you don't have to pay for, as long as it's not for commercial use. Although there are also I mean, bazillion photos that you can also use commercially for free, which is crazy, but there it is. So I'm a fan of Unsplash. The quality and type of photos on Unsplash tends to speak to me a little bit more than Pexels does, but both sites are very good. We're going to start with we're going to start with Unsplash here today. Brand new shiny window. I'm going to search because, as mentioned before, I'm most likely going to be writing about younger people, about teenagers, so I'm just going to start with teens. No, I'm going to go with teenagers and see what happens. As you see, it auto-populates right here. I'm going to check out teenagers, and here we go. Now, immediately, one of the first things I want to point out is that I used the plural, not teen or teenager, but teenagers with an S, plural. Why plural? Because we want more than one character to start with. 2 is, of course, a bare minimum. 3 is better. My good friend Michael Stackpole, who's a best-selling author and Star Wars author, who's written, I think, 8.2 million novels, if I'm not mistaken. Michael Stackpole taught me that in any story, if you can have a triad, if you can have at least 3 people kind of as your main characters, you have the potential for conflict at every intersection, and conflict is what every single story is about. So having a group, a triad, 3 people involved in your story right from the get-go is just going to make for a stronger story, and probably a story that's easier to write because, again, more opportunity for conflict. So I've elected to use a plural on my search term so that, as you can see, here it shows me images with more than one person. And here we go. Let's see what we got. I'm also personally now see, immediately I love this photo. There's a photo here of 4 people on a beach. Looks like probably sunset, and the folks in the middle here are one of them is leaning her head on someone's shoulder, to me indicating that's when you lean into somebody like that, that's emotion. Something is happening. It could be peace and tranquility. It could be sadness. It could be gratitude. It could be all those things. I'm interested in that one. Dudes on a mountain. Now see, we've got some single photos. That doesn't help me. I love that one. So I'm still getting some photos of single people in the photo, and that doesn't help me. Unless I see something that's, really, really, really speaks to me. And I don't want anything posed. I'm looking for something that's a little bit more unposed than that. We've got another beach photo, 1 guy and then 3 girls sitting behind him, and they're all pointing at something off to the left. Guy's got his hand up to his face there. They are looking at something. I wonder what it is. I don't know, but that's a great basis for a story. Bunch of people on a beach pointing. What are they pointing at? There's only one way to find out, and that's to write a story about it. Here's something else. Right away, one of the very first images on Pexels.com that jumps out at me is this picture here with the guy and the girl. She is looking down. It looks like it's, you can't tell what city they're in, but my feeling is like maybe New York or something, because they're kind of in a tunnel, and it looks like New York to me. She's wearing a black beanie, but she's looking down, doesn't look very happy. And he's got his arm on her shoulder, a little bit of a smile on his face, a little kind of maybe a smug grin there, but there's, again, the way he's looking at her and the way her face is set, there is a story here. Something has just happened between these two, and I don't know what it is, but writing a book would be one answer, or one way to find an answer, so I like that one. We might come back to that. And also they've got this vibe that the guy has a sort of this James Dean hairdo, which I think is kind of interesting. So I'm not going to say they look like punk rock or anything, but I don't know, they look like they're a little out of step with mainstream culture. So I'm curious about that. I could turn that into something. A lot of my characters fit that description. They are definitely out of step with mainstream culture. I like writing about those characters. This one down here with the 2 girls on the ground wearing sunglasses and both of them wearing these very brightly colored plaid shirts, that one speaks to me because I like the style. Those look like people I would be interested in writing about. And so when you're doing, whether you're doing an exercise like this, and it's not a bad writing prompt, is just to pick a photo and start writing something just to kind of knock the rust off, different things will speak to you, and lean into that. Don't try to fight out of that. That's something I've been struggling with for a few years now. It's like, well, I have to write X, Y, and Z, and it turns out no, you don't. You should write what you're good at and what you like and what you want to not only write about, but what you want to read about. So just bear that in mind. That doesn't interest me. Now, okay, now here, this is interesting. I've got a picture of, it looks to me like 3 guys. It doesn't have to be, but it looks like 3 guys in like probably Oregon or Washington or something like that on a forest road. There is something above them that is, no, that's not a highway. Okay. No, that's just a mountain. Okay, sorry. So these 3 guys, can't really see any of them clearly, but they're all wearing backpacks and shorts, and they have hoodies on, and they're walking into the woods. That is a good start for a story. May come back to that one. 3 guys walk into a woods, walk into the forest. What happens next? I like that a lot. And there's 3. There's our triad, right? So that's a good start too. Oh, this is interesting. Now we've got a picture of 4 teenage girls walking towards the camera. I'm going to guess this is somewhere in the Southwest, walking through a long abandoned gas station. It has sort of a apocalyptic vibe to it that is pretty interesting. They're all smiling and happy though. That's interesting. See, now so follow me. Now this is just train of thought as we go. What's interesting to me about this picture is, I'm going to make this bigger so you can see, yeah. So here's what's interesting. Here's how my mind works. Let's pretend this is an apocalyptic scenario. The world has ended, and yet these 4 girls are laughing and smiling. Why are they laughing and smiling if it's been an apocalypse? Are they the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? Perhaps. And they're laughing because they've done their job. Maybe this is a like a prologue, flashback, flash forward, something like that. Like this is going to be the end of the story, and now we're going to back up and start chapter 1 at how we end up at this story. That's interesting. That has potential. I like that. I may just have to pick that one because that's just a fascinating idea, and I can tell without, I can just realize I'm smiling. That's probably a good indicator. If you are thinking about an idea and you start smiling, that might be an indicator that this is something to at least look into, right? 4 girls in the apocalypse. You could even call it that, the 4 girls of the apocalypse. That might be fun. How did they get there? And maybe they're not the main characters. Maybe they are. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But again, the fact that I'm coming back to them, even as I'm scrolling through other stuff, is interesting. Why are these girls walking? See, now I'm already going down that path of like trying to find another picture. Now I'm just kind of scrolling crazily to see if anything else comes up. I don't see anything here that is really speaking to me. So let's go back to our apocalypse girls. Where are they? No, Armageddon girls. Armageddon girls, because that has a ring to it. When you say it out loud, the Armageddon girls. We're going to download that sucker right now. There it is. Perfect. The Armageddon girls. I love it. Okay, cool. So, right off the bat, we've got our very first, we've got a title, or at least a working title. So we've got a working title, we've got an image to work from, we've got 4 characters, not just 3, so we've got opportunity for conflict, and that's good. We want as much of that as possible. So yeah, tomorrow, that's all we're going to do for today. It's just to kind of kick things off, and I'm going to let this idea marinate until tomorrow and see what happens. Our next step is probably going to be finding some names for these girls, and we'll talk about how I choose and find names, because that can be a fun thing to do. It's one of my most favorite things to do, actually, is naming characters. I really enjoy that part, and maybe by this time tomorrow I'll have an idea, some semblance of a story thought for what these 4 Armageddon girls are all about. I don't know. We'll check it out. So, Thank you for tuning in. It would be super, super awesome if you would sign up for my newsletter. And if you do, you will get 2 free novels. Bam! I'm giving you 2 books. Instantly shows up right in your email. If you go to the short link bit.ly/2tomnovels, I should have a link in there somewhere. You can click that and grab those 2 books and get on my readers mailing list. I've got a separate mailing list also for writers if you're more interested in writing. I have to cut all of this because it doesn't make any sense. Make sure you sign up for my writer's email list at fictionmentor.com. Just go there and you can find the sign-up sheet for my email newsletter. We've got a lot of cool things going on there. If you want to get some more in-depth ideas and help, then by all means, please consider joining my Patreon. It's only $5 a month, and you get we do private group Zoom meetings and exclusive downloads and tips and techniques and interaction. And of course, if you have questions about writing or your writing career or whatever, that's a great place to connect there. So $5 a month, can't really go wrong. So check both of those out, patreon.com/Tom Leveen and fictionmentor.com. Check both of those out, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.